Okay, I'm coming. Okay, hello. Just working on setting up here. Hope you're all doing well. I'm talking to future viewers at this point because there is nobody here. Let's see here. I'm just setting up some music. I don't know if this is going to work or not. Try and have some quiet music on in the background. Oops. I really do not like the new Finder in Big Sur. I'm going to say that right now. I'll just pop them all in there. If there's any I don't like, I'll just take them off later. Okay. Okay. That's a little janky. And I'm going to do a little announcement on Twitter because I want people to show up if they're so inclined. Okay. Alrighty. So we got, not sure what I think about that song. For this purpose anyways. Hope you all are doing well. We're going to get back into coding up a text-to-speech library to use with Pollen today. Probably put the finishing touches on that. I'm not sure if we'll actually get to the Pollen part today, because I like things to be done well, and I like the process of packaging up and putting together a package or library is another form of publishing. And I enjoy putting the finishing touches on things and putting them out there into the world so other people can use them. And writing code libraries is a way to do that. And frankly, I find more interest in doing that these days than I do in actually writing anything. I think coding is, for me, a better activity than writing. When I code, I have something to say that other people can actually use to do things with or might find interesting. I don't think that's true about anything I might write about at this stage in my life. Oh, you know what I need to start doing, and I need to get a pro here and have some kind of a some kind of checklist for myself. And I'm going to move myself over here this time, I think. Yeah, no, maybe I'll keep it over here. That way I'm actually looking at the things I'm doing. Okay, so what are we doing tonight? Not that. This is in case anybody joins us. We are going to on our text-to-speech library. And maybe later? I don't know. That's the idea of what we're going to do. So now I have something up there in case people join and they want to know what we're up to. My wife's, we ordered my wife a MacBook, an M1 MacBook Air, and it just came today, and it was rejected because the rose gold looks much more rose than gold in person than it does online. And of course, in the before times, we would have gone to the store and looked at them several times before committing to buy one. But we bought one and it showed up today, and now we're sending it back because it's just that the color is too much. It's her call. I support that. Going back to silver. Okay. You know, I'm starting to get more and more comfortable with, well, first of all, I'm starting to get better at remembering not to put my editor window behind my picture in the stream. Emacs, I'm starting to get more and more comfortable with it. Let's see here, at least this iteration of it. Let's close out of that. So I put something out on Twitter over the weekend, I think it was. I spent pretty much all day Saturday creating this custom logo for my Emacs editor that you see up here. And the fun part about it wasn't just that it's a logo, it's an SVG file, but I can switch themes. I'll load a theme that I promise you I've never loaded before. What do we got down here? Is there any here? I mean, I haven't tried very many of these, to be honest. Peacock, that doesn't sound like something that appeals to me, so maybe I'll try that one. So if I load a theme, a Doom theme specifically, I think I did load that one. I think I loaded this one for the Twitter pics, actually. But the logo changes color to match the theme. That's the cool part about it. Let's try another one, because you've loaded it before if it doesn't ask you to confirm that you should try it. What about Monokai Pro? Okay, yeah. So it's asking me, do you really want to run this Lisp code? Yes, I want to treat it as safe and feature sessions. And here we go. So now it's pink. So that's the cool thing I did. The spacing is wrong. Obviously, it should be a little smaller and further away from the menu text there, but I can fiddle with that later. And the code for that I adapted from somebody else's repo, and you can see it on GitHub. Let's see here. Scroll down. This is in my config.el, and here it is. Here's the file that it loads. I can open up the SVG file in a text editor and see that it's using this color for the fill everywhere. It's kind of a monochromatic SVG file. So that's the color that I want to change to match the theme. And there's a default color to use that I put here in case it can't find the value for Doom color. And then what it does is it actually caches a new copy of the SVG file. It opens it up. I'll show you in here. Here's where it opens it up, inserts the contents of the SVG file, does a search and replace of this color to whatever color it gets for the theme, and then it writes it out to the cache file. So if you switch to a theme that you've switched to before, it doesn't have to do as much work. It just loads the cached copy of the theme file. And add some hooks down here. I don't really like this theme, but I'm going to use I have a key binding to cycle between 3 of my favorite themes, which are this is a kind of a monochromatic one. Has a little bit of gray and some italics for the comments, and bold for the keywords. Then there's if I want a dark theme, then I use the Doom 1 theme, which is this one. And then if I want a light theme, I use this kind of Bogdan had a cool theme that I appropriated as well. I thought it was pretty nice. So let's open this project. So this is mostly where we left off last week. And this is working, but what I want to do is rather than just folding this into a new Pollen project, I actually do want to publish this and make it usable for other people, clean it up, tuck in the edges and that kind of thing. And I also I didn't like some aspects of the way it worked before, and I found ways to fix those. Let's see here. I'm gonna close these. I should have closed out of all these programs before I got started here. I apologize. Okay. One of the things that I didn't like, I have some to-dos here, which I'll come back to. But one of the things I didn't like was, I guess I'll have to show you. Well, I could show you here too. Oh, we get a loud one. Oh, that's fine. So I created a struct here for the voices that are returned. So let me just show what's going on here. So with this API, in case you didn't see a previous one, what I've done is, and I should have said this up front, but it's text-to-speech. I did say it up here. We're calling out to Google's Cloud text-to-speech service. And that's what I'm going to want to remove from the list here. Boom. Just a little too loud for coding. Calling out to Google's API. One of the APIs is list the voices that are available. And I think I must have been fiddling with it because it's suddenly getting annoyed with me here. So let me see if I can figure out why it's... Voice, arity mismatch. Language codes. Oh, that's right. Okay, that's what it was. I added an extra part of the struct here, and it's freaking out at me. So let's restart this whole thing. Okay, you can probably hear my kids getting tickled in the background there. So one of the endpoints allows you to call out to Google and say what voices are available to synthesize speech for the words that I'm going to give you. And it returns you all these voices. Well, what it actually returns them as is a JSON data, which gets converted kind of naturally into a racket hash table. So then I'm kind of manually converting each one of those hash table entries into a voice struct. Then when you go to synthesize it, ideally you would select one of those things and pass it back to the synthesize function. But then you end up having to convert it back into a hash table. So that just all seems kind of pointless, and I was kind of wondering about what to do about that, and it turns out that there is, let's start a new browser window here. Turns out that there is a library that should help with this, that will help with this. And I was kind of tweeting about it the other day, so you might have seen it already. It's called HashView. I should be using my local copy, but whatever. What it is it acts. It's a thing that you interact with like a struct, but it's actually just a hash table. So, for example, I'll just add it in right here. Require hash view. Okay, and then I'm going to do hash view. Instead of struct, I'll do hash view. I can do voice. I'll do a simple version of a voice, but I want to do currency, and a currency has a country and a symbol and a decimal, punctuation. Okay, now I can define dollars as a currency. USA centric, sorry. Don't need commas here. What's the dollar sign? And a decimal for the punct. Okay, so now what is dollars? It's actually a hash table with those key value pairs. Now, by doing that, I also get kind of this predicate function, dollars. Is it a currency? Yes, it is. What is the currency symbol? Dollars. It's the dollar sign. I could also just say hash ref dollars symbol. Same thing. But the other virtue of this is that I can, I believe I can, I don't remember what the function is off the top of my head. JSON encode. Is there an encode? I thought there was a JSON encoding function. Let me hop over there. I gotta stop doing these at the end of the workday, but also I gotta start being better at memorizing stuff. Write JSON, that's what we want. So I can write JSON dollars, and it immediately converts it into a string of JSON data. So this makes it kind of nice for me to be able to use the hash tables I get back from the API and still give them a really nice clean interface. So let me just use I'm getting better at memorizing Emacs key bindings, so space W Control O will close other windows. Okay, to do fetch and decode audio, that part is done. We demonstrated that last week. demonstrate it again when we get done cleaning this file up. Change structs to hash views. And then we'll want to reduce dependencies. You can see I'm doing more things in this than we'll want it to do for packaging up as a package. And then we'll also want to get smarter about caching some stuff so that we don't go out over the network every single time we want to list all the voices, for example. Google doesn't release voices every 5 seconds, so caching them so that you're only downloading them once per time you run the program is probably the best. And then we probably want to give, that was a thing I didn't type here, give some, well, API key handling. Oops. Okay. I'm not sure how to write. Ideally, I would write tests for this library. But in order to test it, you need an API key. And I'm not sure. Normally the test is part of the package itself. But I don't want to include an API key as part of the package itself because my credit card can't handle that kind of traffic. So I'm going to hold off on tests for now. My testing is going to be, I'm going to try it and see if it works. And I probably ought to parameterize this endpoint as well, but we'll get there. So instead of struct, well, first of all, I'm going to come up here. I'm going to require hash view, and I'm going to do here hash view voice. There's no transparent thing there, so that's a struct thing, not a hash views are kind of already transparent. It's giving me a flaggy here. Not sure why. It's probably just because it's trying to. Okay, we're good. I don't need this function for converting things back and forth anymore because a voice is already a hash. So I can do, that's done. And here we can do hash view out. You kind of have to do a special form like that. What says it's not a subform? Oh yeah, okay, we're good. It says a hash view out. What that does is, we've created this hash view here. When you create this, you get all these other functions, kind of, so to speak, for free. You get the voice predicate function. You get the functions for accessors like voice, languages, etc. So all those names, those bindings, if you want to make those available to other people, this hash view out kind of grabs all of those up for you and exports them to any modules who are requiring this package. So that's the need for that. Languages, name, sample rate, gender. Now, when I want to list the voices now, I don't need to convert them into a voice struct anymore. I just need to return the list, really. So I can It makes things a lot simpler. Okay, now let's try that. Okay, did we end up okay? Now voices returns, now it's not as pretty as it was before, but it's the same data. And if I take, you know, the first one out of there, first voice is car voices. So keep in mind, I haven't explicitly converted this into anything. It's just a hash table. But if I ask whether it's a voice, oh, it says false. And that's because the keys aren't the same. If I want to get the E's, then I just got to make the accessors, the keys, exactly the same. So, fine. Languages becomes language codes. Name stays the same. This is camel case stuff is not exactly idiomatic racket, but I hadn't thought about this. I wonder if no, I think it'll be okay. There. So we're going to do the same thing again here. Now, is it a voice? Yes, it is. Because it matches those things. Now, the only other... Now we can actually maybe get close to using those things with our synthesize function, because you recall before, in the interest of ease, I had simply... you can see me a little better now? I had simply hard-coded the language in there, and what it expects is language code, name, and SSML gender. You'll notice with all of these that there's only ever one language code. I don't know why they make that a list, but I guess conceivably a voice could be... I mean, the language code is actually part of the name. So maybe I do need a little tiny function here to tweak these things a little bit, in order to be able to pass, to take them in and then turn around and pass the one I want right back into my function. Let me think about that. No, I don't necessarily need to do that. I can just do it all in this function right here. So what I'll do is I will... What do I call this parameter? I can't call it voice or voice. I'm already using that name for something. So synth voice. Call it that. And here I think, let me just pull up the text-to-speech API. Which one of these is the one I want? It's hard to say. Here we go, restaurant. Yeah, exactly the one I want. Come on. I'm using this V1. I'm not sure what beta 1 gets you that V1 doesn't get you. Text, synthesize. Let's see here. So it doesn't want the sample rate. You could give it the sample rate as part of the audio config, but not as part of the voice configuration parameters. Well, what we might do is we might go back and use our, let's see here. We might just dynamically modify this voice to fit. Okay, so in order to make one of these hash tables suitable for consumption in the synthesize API call, we are going to do the following. Let API voice hash remove synth voice natural sample rate hertz. And then we're also going to hash set synth voice language codes car. Well, let's do this. Whoops, what did I just do? Do a little intermediary here. Lang code hashref API voice language codes plural. So what the let star form does is you give it a list of here's an identifier, bind it to this value, and here's an identifier, bind it to this value, and then you can kind of have a body underneath in which within that scope those bindings will have those values. But what the star gets you is that while you're making this list, the values at the top are available immediately for assignments in the values below it. So already here I can refer to API voice, which I've just assigned up here. So I normally, I did a similar type of thing with this threading function down here, where you take an initial value and then say, then put it through this function, then put that through this function, then put that through this function. But since this is going to be a package, and because that threading function comes from another package, I don't want there to be a lot of dependencies. So I'm just going to get there using kind of very standard base racket functionality. So now I want to convert the voice that we're coming in from one of these, which we get back from the API, into kind of this format that the synthesized API call expects. The differences are you don't want to pass it this natural sample rate hertz value because, as you see here, you only can give it a language code, a name, and a gender. In fact, we don't even, I think, need to give it the gender. But since the gender is already there, I'm not going to go to the trouble of removing it. So first I remove the sample rate hertz. Oh, and the other thing is, like I mentioned before, when you get back the voices, it has the language codes as a list, whereas you can only pass a single language code into the synthesize API call. So now I'm getting that lang code as the first, which it will always be the only one as far as we've seen, but the first value in this language codes list. Now I can hash set synth voice. I should really be putting API voice here because that's the one that I'm lang code. Okay, it's barking at me because my brackets don't match. Okay, so now I've put the lang code in as just kind of a naked value instead of a list. Now I'm going to get rid of the list itself. So now we're going to take API voice and hash remove API voice language codes. There. And this synthesize is going to return the bytes. So because I have API voice here, you know, I could just make request JSON part of this let thing. So we'll call it a hash with input hash okay. Voice is the API voice we just made, and audio config is hash encoding P3. Okay. And then so I can get rid of this now. Hope it works still. You know, I could almost just keep going with this. And you notice I'm not using my API endpoint up here properly. So endpoint, what I'll just do, I'll just do this the manual way. Whoops. Response JSON is post format. And that whole thing is just a string append, really. I want to see. I'm pretty sure it ends in a slash. I'm not going to scroll all the way up there. So I can say a text synthesize key equals the other thing. Endpoint, API, key, JSON is request JSON. And then, just keep going. Hash, oh, let's see here. We need a, that's the bummer about using let is you have to actually pick an identifier for every line, so. Audio. A hash reffing. So it's a string. So I can do hash ref response JSON audio content. And then we need to convert that to bytes. Audio B64 string bytes UTF-8 audio string, and finally we decode that into MP3 data. Maybe we'll just do that like this. So here we're in the body portion, and that is base 64 decode audio B64. And then I think I can, what do we got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lines there. So that function is looking different than it did. Which is fine. But it doesn't depend on the threading library anymore. And now it will take any of these values that I give it, theoretically, and just create that there. And return the raw audio bytes. Since I can, why don't I... Oh, and the other thing was, okay, so yeah, let me try and get some audio. I'm not going to try listening to it just yet because I have more to say on that front too. I'm just making sure that I don't have any weird errors. I think I should be able to run this. Yeah, no errors. And let me pick a voice here. Well, I can't pick a voice. Well, I'll pick the first one. I'll do the same thing I did before. What voice did I pick? I picked IN. Indiana, maybe? India, I mean, sorry. Now I'll try synthesizing some text in that voice. I'm going to define B synthesize. Hi, buddy. using the first voice. I gave it a contract violation. So that means I got pretty far. Hash ref. So I'm thinking that this is the one that is giving me the error. The response JSON should be, oh, I know, right? Yeah, that's a function. Okay, so, yeah, this is, this is not what I want. Or, yeah. I should be calling, the response JSON is a function that I should be calling. On this right here. Let me give it a chance to catch up here. I'm looking at the thingamajigger here. So that is saying, yeah, response JSON. I'm looking down here. When I hover over this, if you look down at the bottom here, it's imported from a module. So that's the function I should be calling to get that value. Okay. So let's try and run that again. Let me get my first voice here, as I did before. Now that function completed without error, and if I look at it, I get a lot of bytes. So that seems to have worked as before. Now, as far as playing this, before I was kind of using VLC to do it. What I want to do instead of that, because I'm actually using VNC during the stream, and whatever I do here is not going to make it into the library. There's another function I found. It's part of, I think, the GUI library in Racket called Play Sound. So in the Racket docs, you can hover over some function name, and it'll tell you what to require in your document to get that function. So it wants Racket GUI base. So let me do that. Racket. I'll clean this up in a bit, don't worry. Okay, and then I'm going to, but also it needs a file name. Yeah, that should work. It's actually easier. So play sound. What the heck? Find me later. Just needs a file and async. That is a required parameter. So temp.mp3 and yes, async. One-time instantiation of Racket GUI base. Okay, here we go. Same thing again. Get my voice. Now I can get my bytes. Now I'm going to say those bytes. That function is wrong, so I'll just do it manually. I'm going to save bytes b as temp.mp3, and then I'm going to play sound temp.mp3.
Hi, buddy.
Ah, worked better than looked as well as I could have hoped, which is perfectly, actually. The voice does have that India accent to it.
Hi, buddy.
Hi, buddy. Hey, now
Hi, buddy.
that is no nonsense. You can voice my podcast anytime, lady. First voice. And it is a WaveNet voice. The voices that are available to you there's standard and there's WaveNet, and WaveNet is kind of a AI enhanced voice that sounds more fluid when synthesizing text. So great, so that is still working. And now what I want to do, I can check that off. Done. I might change the order of things here. I'm not using VLC. In fact, what I should do, the I also added some key bindings for Racket to my Doom Emacs thing here. The Racket mode comes with tidy requires and trim and tidy requires, which tidy requires kind of sorts them all nicely. So you can see if I do this, it's going to kind of bop them around so that the shorter ones are at the top. I mean, I thought it was going to. Yeah. But there's still a bunch in there that I'm not using. And so if you want them trimmed as well, you can say, well, if you're not using my key bindings, you would do Racket mode, no, Racket trim requires. And then it'll take out the ones you're not using, so that's kind of nice. Are there any things that I need to, any more dependencies I need to get rid of, actually? Ultimately, I am going to get rid of this function and this function because they don't belong in this library. Let's do the caching. Oh, let's call that done for now. Let's do the caching here. Every time I call this function, it goes out and gets a new list from the API. And I think that's kind of wasteful. And it's slow. So let's do this. First, we're going to do a better job providing the functions that we want people to be able to use. And so I think those are the two that I care about. And what we're going to do, we're going to define voices as kind of a let over lambda, which you saw me use that let form before. So I'm not using the shorthand where you surround the function name with parentheses to denote that you're defining a function that you'll be calling. Instead, I'm going to define voices itself, and I'm going to start with a let form here. And we're going to call the voice list or we'll call it voices cache. And then inside the body of the let, lambda. So this is where we create the function. Unless what form do I want to use here? Basically, I'm going to store empty. This is cache. Can I just set? Well, okay, so for starters, we only want to do this if it's not empty. So if it's not empty, we will this is where we use this to get it over the network. So what that does is it creates a binding here that's valid within this scope. And then within that scope, we create a function that might modify that value. So I don't know if that's what they call a closure. I'm still coming up to speed on a lot of these things, but so now that function gets assigned to this thing. And yeah, music is a great cue there. I think I should be able to test this the way it's written. And we should be able to see, should be able to time it. Oh yeah, empty is something that empty is kind of a convenience function that's not included in racket base. Do I want to bring in racket lists just for that function? I don't think so. Equal. That one's part of racket base, so we just test if it's equal to null. good. Okay, so time function times how long something takes, obviously. So the first time I call this, well, I want to say I don't want the value. I just want to time it. So it took 290 milliseconds. If I just do it again, nothing, because it's already cached the value. And if I see what's in there, the list is in there. So I'd say that was successful. Anytime you run this program, you get the list once. There you go. I do also want a, let me just do a little list of available voices. There. There's one other thing I remember that I wanted to do, which is I didn't want this list to be a list of hash tables. I actually wanted the whole list to be a hash table so that you could use a name to select a list or to select a voice. And so actually what I want to do here is, because this is a list of hash tables, I'm going to kind of iterate over that at the moment that I get it. Sorry, I'm mistyping here. For hash voice in list what column am I in here? Oh yeah, 83. I'm good. I like to use I kind of keep things within 100 characters per line. So when you're in for hash, you just have to produce two values. The first value is the key, which we're going to use the first language code. And we need the first value out of there, so car, good old car function. Href voice language codes. I just had an idea. Well, we'll see. Car href voice language codes. That's the key. And the value is just the voice that's in the list. Okay. And that is still correct. Okay, I think we're good. So now the voices is going to be a hash table. I'm running it down here. I'm going to go voices. So now I could select. Oh, what did I do that for? I should have picked the name, silly. I used the language code and I should have picked the name. That's not going to work because obviously several of these language codes use this, or voices use the same language code, which is fine. It just means I get to clean this up a little bit. So instead of language codes, I use name. Try it again. Because it pops up down here. There we go. Okay, better. Using the name instead of, and now, yeah, I'm getting it really fast now because I've cached it all. I'm not going out over the network every time. A convenience thing we can do now then too is if we do hash keys of voices, we just get a list of all the names, which might be do we want to give people the option to use just the name, pass just the name into the synthesize function? No, I don't think so. I don't know. What do I want the interface into this module to look like? Do people even need to know? Well, yeah, they need to be able to see. They probably care what gender their voice is. They probably don't care about the natural sample rate hertz. But they probably do care about the gender. And the gender is not exposed anywhere in the name. So why don't I say why don't I say the voices function is just a list of the names maybe I don't provide that publicly. Maybe I just say define voice names to be hash keys voices. And then I'll define I can't use the word I can't use just voice. I have to say get voice name hash ref voices name. So I'll provide those functions. Return a list of strings and then return a voice. Voice. Some of this is a little obvious, but there it is. Up here with voices, just say private. So we're not going to expose that one. Then up here, now then that point I was mentioning about the gender, of course. Wonder if I should include some of the gender information in there. Because I can really make this list of names whatever I want. Maybe I will do that. So I can change that here. This is the key of the list. I could say that this is format like that. The first part is the standard name. The second part is, of course, and I'm not even using my convenience functions here. I could be saying voice SSML, right? Is that what I called it? Gender. I'm kind of shadowing this here. Maybe I should just call it V. Voice name. Is that right? No, that's not right. Voice name, voice SSML gender. I'm not sure that Racket XP mode is. I wonder if I'm doing something wrong here. Yes, I am. Need to close my function. Okay. I'm just kind of looking for errors here. I want to make sure that it's kind of recognizing my accessor functions here. And then this needs to be V. I do voice names, the voice name includes male and female. I can pick one of those. Get voice. It's funny how they're not sorted in any way, because it's keys in a hash table. And you're not likely to look at this list, I wouldn't think. It would be nice to be able to specify a language. A language code. And you could kind of filter it that way. So maybe we make that optional. So we're gonna get the voice names in any case. And maybe I might even want to sort them. I think I can afford to do that. List sort. I think that's a thing. No, I'm going to go right back to the reference here. Data types, lists. Oh, you know what? It's probably just sort. Yeah, it is just sort. And it just needs to know less than or greater than, you know, a function to use. And do I want that sort to be case sensitive? I don't think it cares. So sort is the list and then the function. Okay, and then string less than, I think, is the function that I would use for this. And that's in racket base too, so let's do this. Sort the hash keys, string less than, and then if not string, we'll just do it this way, equal lang, then we will, then we want to filter it somehow. Do we want to use regular expressions for this? We've seen that all these names have the language code consists of these 4 well, these two characters and then a dash and then these two characters. And they all come with, well, it's not even necessarily, you know, down here, this one has 3 characters. This one has 3 characters. So I don't necessarily want to use regular expressions for this. This substring function raises an exception in case of an error, and I don't want to trap exceptions. Well, I could just use string contains, I think, or a string prefix. Yeah, string prefix. That's what we want. So we'll use string prefix predicate as the function, as part of a function for a filter. And string prefix, I scrolled past it already. It's the string and then the prefix. And then there's the perennial question of filter in any language. Does it pass the items, or does it that match, or does it keep them out? And in this case, this filter function keeps out the ones that match. No, it keeps in the ones that match. Filter lambda s string prefix s lang names. That should do it. I may have gotten the optional arguments wrong, but let's just see if I did or not. I'm worried about that strike through there. Is that a function that I need to bring in from racket string? I do need to bring in racket string. Well, so be it. Probably going to complain that I put it in the wrong order. Yeah, but I'll be getting rid of that one later. It wants me to put this in alphabetical order, and I'm just not going to do that right now. Alright, let's give this another try. There we go. Those are the voice names, and they're sorted now, which is kind of nice. And if I want to pick one, let's see, I want to see the ones that are English whoops. I could say EN. See all the English ones. So it kind of has the virtue of not being too, it's a little bit flexible. I can see specifically the US WaveNet ones. So I can filter, because they use such a consistent naming convention, I can filter for more than just the entire language code. I can't filter for gender, but I've used that as a feature, not a bug. So why don't I pick one of these? WaveNet E female. And I'll get that voice. And it fetches that one out for me. And then if I wanted to find the B, synthesize hi buddy, and then I'll use, there's my text, and then I can use get voice. Can I do this? It's not a list, but there are a bunch of bytes there, so that's fine. I figured it out. So then I can save bytes using my handy save bytes function. B test temp.mp3 and 9600 bytes, and then I go play sound temp.mp3.
Hi, buddy. Time's a wasting.
See, not bad.
Hi, buddy. Time's a wasting.
Okay. So now we have a sort of and you know, I might say get voice feels a little network requesty. Why don't I do this? I could say either, I'll say select voice. I'll call it that. And at the top, we'll want to provide it properly. And I am still tempted to let them use just the name to select the voice. I think that they should have the option to do either one. So I'm going to change this to voice or name. And up here before this, I'm going to say synth voice is going to be if voice or name, then voice or name. Otherwise, Select voice. Name. It does seem a little unfortunate that every time the program runs, if it synthesizes text, well, they can get around that though, because if you decide that this is the particular voice that I want to use in my program forevermore, you can always kind of hard code that datum into your program and just use it. You don't have to necessarily fetch it from Google. You're just kind of guessing that they're not going to change them around on you, which you'd think they wouldn't. So we'll have to make a note. So I'll put that in there in the comment, and then if I write documentation for this thing, then it'll get in there. Okay. Let me see if that works. Let me just test it out. And the good way to do that will be find B, and rather than using get voice here, I'll let my function do that for me. Oops. Same exact number of bytes.
Hi, buddy. Time's a-wasting.
Okay, so that works. What do I have for my to-do list? Oh yeah, the API key. I was thinking about this earlier. The API key, I'm kind of manually loading it from a file. Obviously, I want to make it a parameter that the user of the package can supply. Do I want them to have to set it separately or supply it as an optional argument, maybe even a keyword argument, to either of these functions? I think I'll do the simple one. I think I'll do the simple one. And as I'm thinking about making a parameter for that, which is a good way of easily making a value that's thread safe that somebody can change. I'm wondering if I should have just used parameters rather than this fancy let over lambda. So I'm not sure that this is thread safe, and I don't think thread safety is a huge consideration here. But it would make it simpler. And I would get away from using set as well. I think I am going to do that. So what that would entail is define voices cache make parameter no. So when you make a parameter, you define this as a function that can take either 0 or 1 arguments. And if you give it 0 arguments, it returns the current value, and if you give it 1 argument, you change the value. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to change this. Delete that. Delete that. I'm going to change, I'll fix up the indentation in a second. Because this is a function now, I got to surround it with parentheses. Then to change it, I just do that. I think that's right. Then here, I need to simply call the voices cache function with no arguments to give it the values. Now that might be a little bit slower. Okay. I can do Control-Alt-Q. Oh yeah, there we go, it worked. I wonder how fast that is. I wonder if it's any slower. Void time voices. First one's going to be slow. Okay, 250 milliseconds. Do it again. Yeah, not noticeably slower. If I did it 10,000 times, I might be able to see a difference between the two. And it is simpler to look at than the let over lambda thing, to my view. Let's do this. This needs to go here. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing with the API key. This will be a thing that we can remove later. Did I use this API key param somewhere? List API key param, I did. Well, what I'm going to do is make parameter, there's nothing there, define PI key URI param. It's going to be a function so that it gets loaded up every time you call it. Cons key return. I probably want to return false if there's nothing there. I'll call it what do I call that? Well, just call it. I'll just leave it that way. Change this. There's a key binding for surrounding this thing in parentheses that I don't know yet. Okay. Now we're getting really picky here, or I'm getting really picky here, I should say. API, we're going to provide API key, API, whoops, API key, param. Now, I might have to test in every function whether the API key exists. What kind of error do I want to raise? user error. What is a mismatch error? Oh, using old formatting conventions. We'll do raise arguments error. Name. And this is the message. Or maybe I should just use the error function. You can tell I don't raise exceptions a lot. Error failed. Yeah, we'll just do that. So that is a form that we will want to use there. Okay, there. And in here. And here we need to change this to a function call. These voice names and select voice both call voices, and voices will check for the API key the first time it needs to use it. So I think we're good there. This get check function I'm only using it in one place, so it's a little bit baroque, but for what I'm doing. I think I can delete that and that. So let's try this out. I have an error in line 26. I'm missing something, missing a parenthesis somewhere. I think I'm missing it here. Okay, that's good. So now if I call voices, I'm going to get an error. Get check API key not set. Rerun with Control U prefix. Okay, so all I need to do is do API key test API key. Now if I do voices, it'll work. Now, yeah, voice names is what cool. Okay, so that's working. Now I have a pretty good thing here. What I really need to do is close this file. I need to rename I'll bring this terminal window here. And we're going to exit out of this. CD into the folder that I have. Test.racket really should be my main.racket. So I'm going to remove the main. I'm going to move test into main. And I'm going to make a new file called makedir. No. Yeah, makedir wavenet test. I'm going to move wavenet API into wavenet test. I'm going to remove the, I'm going to create use main as my main branch, even though the Racket Package Manager is not good at dealing with those right now. And I'm just going to create a quick. Oh, I already have one here, which is nice. I'm going to add Store.mp3. We'll check out the README. There's hardly anything there. So nothing's in version control. Git add. Git ignore. I'm going to. I'm not going to use Travis on this. Use. So now. Here's my main.racket. I'm going to touch. Oh, here, I'll just do it this way. I keep doing that. This stuff. Paste it there. Of course, I need a lang bracket. Require bracket GUI base. So what I'm doing now is moving all my test code out of the main module and putting it in this separate one. Yeah. And this isn't going to work because I haven't required the package that I've just created. But I'd say this is ready for distribution. Oh yeah, I got to delete this line. And I don't need racket file and I don't need racket GUI base anymore. So those are gone. And I got a little nice green check mark here, which means that my linter is happy. I think this is pretty much ready to go. Now, I don't have any documentation for it, but here's what I can do. Well, I'm not going to do anything about the documentation at the moment. What does the info say? This. I should really edit that, so I will. Although I don't need to edit it, of course. Do I need to edit it now? Oh wait, there's a command to check the dependencies. What is that command? let's see here. Reiko. Package management. How do I check? Another way to see that is there's a particular chapter in Beautiful Racket that shows this. Specifying it. Okay, here. Reiko setup. Okay, so maybe I need to install this Reiko setup, check package dependencies, and then your package name. And you can have it fix package dependencies for that as well. So I'll do this. First I'm going to Reiko package install. I'm going to call it WaveNet. Oh. Oh, I got to do this. Make sure it uses the directory name and not try and look it up on the package server. I'm going to install the package. I'm going to set up the dependencies, and then I'm just going to run my test. It's 9 o'clock already, so I think after this, I'm going to create the GitHub repo, kind of stub it out, as it were, and then we'll stop recording. We'll go off the air, and next week we will use the library that we've kind of polished up here in a Pollen project with some SSML markup. What I'll be able to do here is require WaveNet. It's every time you install a package, it rebuilds all of your local documentation, because Racket index. Oh yeah, local redirect. All of your Racket documentation, any page in your Racket documentation will hyperlink to any other page. So it kind of has to rebuild the whole thing at once. And it doesn't usually take this long. Of course, I'm streaming, so. sure. I think I should be able to run this now because my WaveNet package is installed. Yep. So if I say synthesize, what is that? It's a procedure. Okay, so that is working fine. I can say, well, of course, never did update this. What is my voices in UK? Oh no, GB for Great Britain. Voice names. That's what I said. Oh, I didn't set the API key. Okay, perfect. So I use test API key. Now let's get my voice names. Perfect. I do have to update my function, my say function here, to use a voice. And what I'm going to do is I'll show how you would select a voice. Standard B. We want a WaveNet one. Those sound better. They charge you more for them if you use more than 1 million characters in a month, but so that's that. So in our code, we will define British dude as this datum. Okay. And when we synthesize, we're going to use British dude in this test module. Okay, run this. Of course, we can, instead of creating a variable called test API key, we can just do, and then set it that way, kind of imperatively, so to speak. Running it now down here. We're going to say watch out for that tree, blighter.
Watch out for that tree, you blighter.
Okay, so that was 2 hours to kind of do the same thing we were doing before, except we have a very clean interface, reusable interface that we can publish for others to use. We can write some nice documentation, and we can then build that into our Pollen project. Any number of Pollen projects very easily. So there we go. Not this. So we did it. Let's do that. You know, hey, it's 9:17 Central Time. I don't want to go outside. It snowed today. There's a lot of snow on my driveway. I gotta go shovel. Let me go to my GitHub page. I'll create a new repository. You see that blue dot up there? Racket 8.0 is coming out at any time. Could be today, could be tomorrow. And I always wonder how close it is when I see that little blue dot there. We're going to make a new one. What do we call it? WaveNet API. I've gotten into the habit of using emoji. Oops, that's not the right hotkey. There we go. Wave. Speaker. Racket API for Google. WaveNet API. Cloud text to speech. I should say Racket interface. We don't want any of those things. Okay. I think I'm using this method. Whoops. Got a CD WaveNet. Added the get ignore. Get add info, get add main, get add, what's in scribblings? Okay, we're going to keep doing that. They use the old style, so this is going to say D, a racket interface for Google's cloud text to speech engine. Documentation to come. You need an API key. Here's a quick sample. I'll just paste this all in. Okay. Oh, what happened there? I somehow undid my trim. Okay. I gotta add main and back in. Initial commit. Git push origin master. Sorry. Main. Muscle memory. There we go. There we go. Now I have something to show the Twitters. And we can look at the code. It looks so lovely. There's kind of there's a dependency in here that isn't, there's a couple of dependencies in here that haven't been disclosed yet. What we would do then is Reiko setup. Where's that page? Down here, check package depths. Of course, I don't know. Well, chalk it up to slowness. I can fix this off camera, but I gotta fix those dependencies. It'd be sad if somebody tried to install this and couldn't because they didn't know that they needed these, specifically HTTP easy and hash view. I can fix that quickly after. Is there a reason for me to stop the stream now and do it, and then do it? Well, there's a reason for me to not use this method necessarily. Checking package dependencies. Not sure why it has to do all this other stuff just to check the current package's dependencies, but okay, so hash view lib, HTTP easy. So we need to include both of those in our dependencies, which I think we can do by and HTTP easy. I'm going to grab my description that I don't have to type out twice. Yeah, I think that fixes that. I should change, you know, I might have put those in the wrong depths. Depths is what I need. So actually what I want to do is and I'm not using any tests right now. So I'll just leave that there. That's what I want to change. Now I can I'm going to pull up some links here. Oh. You need, this is going to be a list. API key, the HTTP easy. Well, if it's properly installed, we'll do this. This is not currently on the Racket package server. To install it, go clone this repo And man, and do I think you can do Rico. Okay. And I can commit that change. Okay, so now this thing is ready to git push origin main. Why does it want this? Oh, do I have to do this every single stinking time? There we go. All right, maybe off camera, if I have time to fiddle, I'll put some scribble documentation in there, and it will show up nice. If I, this is not local. This is not local. I don't know what it looks like. It probably looks like something right now. I just haven't. Let's see, what does it look like now? Oh, it's looking online. I thought there was a file. Way to get the local document. See you later. Okay, well, signing off. It's 9:40. Gotta go shovel my driveway. Hope you're all doing well. Hope this has been somewhat instructive. I'll see about getting this one on YouTube, so that those of you who prefer that that app can have your playback speed adjustments and that sort of thing. Cheers, everybody. See you in 1 week.